It's the most common question in the world, and almost everyone lies when they answer it. Today, we're looking at the silent power and the hidden traps of how are you?
It really is maybe the most fascinating three-word phrase in English.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because it so rarely means what it says.
Exactly. And for anyone learning English, it's a huge point of confusion. It feels like a trick question almost.
It does. Because you're taught in a classroom that a question, demands a true answer. But then you go out into the real world and society. Well, it almost punishes you if you try to give one.
Right, I understand that deeply. You try to give a real answer in, say, the office kitchen, and you just crash into this wall of awkward silence, or even worse, just total confusion on their face.
Yeah.
So, for you, our listener, especially if you're learning, we are diving deep into this one phrase today. We're looking at the sources you shared with us to really uncover why we use these, well, empty words.
And what their true purpose is.
Mm.
And more importantly, what happens when we break that secret social code.
So, our mission really is to be your guide through this. It's a very subtle landscape.
It is. And we're going to explain these hidden, unwritten rules in a really simple step-by-step way.
Yeah.
We're going to go slow. We want you to walk away from this deep dive understanding the unspoken function behind it.
So you never feel confused again.
Yeah.
Or feel that weird internal conflict, that feeling that you're lying when you just say, I'm fine.
Exactly.
That's a fantastic goal because this isn't just about learning words, is it? It's about culture. It's about psychology.
It's all of that.
Okay, let's unpack this simple but, wow, profoundly powerful phrase. I think we have to start at the very, very beginning, the root purpose of even asking, how are you?
Right.
So let's talk about the confusion, about when saying fine is actually a necessary lie.
To really get this, we first need to introduce a concept. It sounds a bit difficult, but we promise we'll make it very clear.
Yeah.
It's called phatic communication. That's the core technical name for what we're talking about.
Phatic communication. Okay, that does sound like something from a university course. For our listeners who are focused on simple language, how do we define that in the most straightforward way possible?
It's simple, really. Phatic communication is when we use language, but the main reason isn't to exchange information. It's to establish or just maintain a social connection.
So the words themselves don't really matter for their content.
Exactly. The words are less important than the act of saying them.
So when someone asks, how are you? It's not a request for data. It's not like asking, what time is it? You're saying it's purely
A
a
total
trusting.
handshake is the perfect analogy.
It's perfect. Think about it. When you physically shake someone's hand, you're communicating. Like what? Connection, respect, acknowledgement.
Right. You're not saying, tell me your life story.
Of course not. And the words, how are you, or good morning, they function in the exact same way. It's a shared ritual. That is incredibly clarifying. So the focus is on connection, not on content. To really make this clear, maybe we should contrast it with the other kind of communication, the one we think of as, normal.
Yes. We can call that referential communication. That's the type where the words matter a lot because they carry facts. They carry data.
Like your example, what time does the train leave?
Exactly. If you ask that, you need a true, detailed answer. You need to know it leaves at 4:30 p.m. If you answer that with a social handshake with, the train is fine, thanks, well, you'd miss your train.
Right. That makes the distinction really sharp. So referential is about data. Phatic is about the relationship status. The greeting is just a way to signal, hey, I see you. I'm acknowledging our shared space in a polite way.
It's like conversational traffic control. It's a fundamental signal. The person speaking sends up a little flag that says, I'm friendly.
And the person receiving is supposed to send a similar flag back just to confirm that everything is okay. Mutual peace.
That's it. And this distinction is so crucial because it leads us right into the learner's dilemma.
Yes, let's talk about that. Because if you're learning English, you're taught the rules. You're taught grammar. You're taught meaning. You're told that a question mark requires an accurate response.
And that's what leads to this really strong feeling of dishonesty. Learners often say they feel like they're lying. They're asked, how are you? And they just automatically say, I'm fine, thanks. Or, good, and you.
But deep down, they know they are not fine. Maybe they have a nagging headache, or they're stressed about a project, or they just slept badly.
Yes. Maybe they're just tired. And the natural, honest answer, if this were a referential question, would be to say that.
Right. You would say, honestly, I'm stressed. This project is late and my head is killing me.
Hmm.
But the moment you do that, you break the social contract. And that's where the confusion floods in.
The confusion comes from that clash. The clash between the literal meaning of the words and their social function. And the hidden rule, the one native speakers just know but can't really explain, is this. The expected answer is, fine, thanks.
Even if you're having the worst day of your life.
Especially then, maybe, the answer has to be automatic because it's a signal. It's not a report on your health.
So it isn't really an answer at all, is it? It's more like a transaction. You offer the social handshake, I return it. Interaction complete. Contract confirmed.
And the actual state of your health or your finances or your mood is completely irrelevant to that specific social ritual.
This is a really important point for anyone listening who's a beginner. When someone asks, how are you? In a casual setting, passing you in the hallway, starting a quick meeting, they are not giving you permission to share your deep personal struggle.
No, they are asking you to confirm that you are safe, that you're ready for a brief, low-friction interaction.
Okay, which raises a huge question that our sources get into. If this automatic positive response makes people feel dishonest, why do we demand this lie? Why does society enforce this system?
It really comes down to two very powerful forces, efficiency and something called cognitive load. First, efficiency. Just think about the pace of modern life.
It's relentless.
It is. We interact with dozens of people every single day. The barista, the bus driver, our colleagues, our neighbors. If every single one of those people truly answered, how are you, with a full, accurate emotional and physical health report.
The entire system would collapse. We'd spend half the morning in a therapy session at the grocery store.
Exactly. It would be chaos. So the phrase and the automatic answer, they're a massive shortcut. It lets us acknowledge connection and show respect in the absolute minimum amount of time.
It's an investment of, what, 2 seconds of your time to save 5 minutes of emotional commitment?
That's a great way to put it. So the answer, I'm fine, is really about time management, not mood management.
You also mentioned cognitive load. Let's break that down, again, keeping the vocabulary simple for everyone.
Right. Cognitive load just refers to the amount of mental effort or, thinking power required to process something. If I ask you, how are you? And you say, I'm fine, my brain registers. Status normal, no action required. That's a very, very low load.
Super easy to process.
But if you say, actually, I'm having a terrible day, my dog is sick, and I think I'm getting the flu, my brain suddenly has to process a huge amount of new information.
And has to ask all these new questions.
So many. My brain goes, what is the problem? Can I help? Do I have time to help? How do I respond with empathy? And crucially, how do I get out of this situation gracefully?
Wow, that sounds exhausting. Just thinking about it, it's exhausting. So the automatic fine, thanks, is really just you confirming your social readiness. You're saying, I am socially operational right now.
That is the perfect phrase for it, socially operational. We use this standardized phrase to ensure predictability. And predictability reduces anxiety.
Because if I know that 99% of people are just going to say, fine, I can move through my day without friction.
Exactly. The trust is that our interactions will be smooth. The moment someone breaks that pattern, they introduce unpredictability, and that instantly increases friction and discomfort.
And that discomfort, that's the signal that we've moved from the efficiency phase into the next part of our discussion, where the unwritten rules get broken.
Yes. The moment you offer a detailed, true account of your miserable day, you've stopped the efficiency train.
Yeah.
You are inviting a depth of conversation that the other person almost certainly did not intend to start.
And that is where the social contract is violated.
Precisely.
Okay, let's talk about that contract. We understand it's about efficiency, but what does this social contract actually require from us?
The social contract, as our sources describe it, is this unwritten, unspoken agreement for these little everyday interactions. The core requirement is basically mutual non-hostility and predictable behavior.
Maintaining the peace, that feels almost primal, like something from our ancient past, even in a modern office building.
It is deeply rooted. Think about it. In a busy environment, when you see another person, you need a very quick way to assess their intentions. When you exchange, how are you, and the expected neutral positive answer, You're sending a very clear message.
What's the message?
The message is, I see you, I am friendly, I am safe, and I'm following the accepted social rules.
So the foundational agreement is we will proceed with respect for each other's time and emotional state. We confirm we're safe, and we confirm we agree on the rules.
That's it. If the greeter initiates the handshake, they're offering an opening on specific terms. If the responder returns the expected phrase, they're accepting those terms. Low commitment, high efficiency.
But if they fail to return it, if they're silent or angry or too honest,
Then they're signaling instability. Or they're signaling a desire for a much, much deeper engagement than what was offered.
and when that agreement gets shattered, we get what the sources call a social error. This is that awful, cringy discomfort we feel when someone is too honest.
It's a significant social error. The discomfort is immediate, and it's visceral. The consequence of being too honest is that the responder has just violated the agreed-upon low-effort terms of the engagement.
But let's dig into why it's an error. I mean, we live in a world that constantly tells us to be authentic, to be honest. Why do we punish it in the hallway?
Because context is everything. Authenticity is beautiful and necessary in a close friendship, or in a therapist's office. In a casual greeting, it's an ambush.
An ambush. I like that word for it.
The other person was not prepared for a real deep conversation. They were only prepared for that 2-second handshake. When they get a detailed report of your suffering, they suddenly feel this immediate, unwanted pressure.
Pressure to stop what they were doing, pressure to react emotionally, pressure to offer solutions. They didn't consent to that level of involvement when they just said, "Hi, how are you?"
No, they didn't. They feel obligated. The social pressure to show empathy means they feel like they have to stop and engage, even if they're rushing to a meeting or dealing with their own private stress. The error isn't the feeling of sadness or stress. The error is misreading the intent of the greeting.
The greeter's intent was low-effort connection. The responder's action requires high effort, high commitment, and time. They feel trapped. They were just looking for that little signal of safety, and now they're dealing with something that requires emotional management they haven't budgeted for.
And you can see it physically. The greeter, the one who's now trapped, often shows these little micro-expressions of surprise, maybe a slight squint followed by physical restlessness. It's a clear sign that they want to flee.
To make this absolutely crystal clear for everyone listening, I think we have to stage this awkward moment. We're going to do a little role play here where the social contract is just completely broken. Let's imagine we're passing each other in a busy office hallway.
Okay, I will be the person who breaks the contract.
Oh.
Overshare slowly and with, a lot of detail.
And I'll be the confused, unprepared greeter. Just listen to the difference between the casual start and the halting, awkward response.
Ready?
Hey there. How are you doing today?
Oh, well, I've been distinctly worse, I suppose. I am battling this terrible, relentless flu, honestly. It's been 3 full nights since I got a solid 4 hours of sleep. My wife says I sound like a steam engine when I breathe.
Oh, dear. I'm sorry to hear that.
And my head is just absolutely pounding right behind my eyes. I took one of those combination tablets, the blue and white one, the super strength decongestant, about an hour ago. But it seems to be doing nothing for this deep, painful cough I have.
Right.
When I cough, it rattles my whole skeleton. I actually felt a crack in my back this morning. And I keep getting these sudden random chills, even though the office air conditioning is off. I probably shouldn't even be here, but I had to pick up this package for the afternoon meeting. I'm thinking about going home early, maybe right after lunch, because I feel so dizzy, and I'm really worried about passing this on.
Okay, let's stop right there and just analyze what happened. Notice the sheer length of that response. My internal reaction went from, casual acknowledgement to total panic.
Right.
I was prepared for, "I'm good, thanks." And instead, I got a 5-minute medical report. It had specific symptoms, medication colors, even a risk assessment about passing on germs.
And the purpose of all that detail, the medication, the cough description, was to create this instant, unwanted intimacy. I forced you, the greeter, into the role of a concerned friend, which was not the role you signed up for 2 seconds ago.
Absolutely not. And my physical reaction would have been so telling. My eyes would widen a bit. I'd be nervously looking around for an escape route. I would definitely be shifting my weight, my body just screaming, "Back away slowly."
You're looking for an off-ramp. You, the greeter, feel awkward and unprepared because Now you have to process all this serious information and figure out how to escape politely without seeming cold or uncaring. The anxiety just spikes because the interaction has become completely unpredictable.
And I feel like I owe them something now. I can't just say, okay, see ya. I have to spend time and energy. I have to say things like, oh, I really hope you feel better, and maybe you really should go home and rest.
It shifts the entire
It
exchange.
shifts it from a 2-second handshake to this extended, necessary, and very awkward minute of emotional management.
Yeah.
And now I feel guilty for not offering more help.
It perfectly illustrates what the sources say. Breaking the contract causes significant discomfort and an immediate, overwhelming desire to flee the conversation. The goal was peace and efficiency. The result was stress, guilt, and delay. You became responsible for my emotional and physical state simply because you performed a common greeting. That's the heavy cost of honesty in a phatic exchange.
This is where it gets really fascinating for me. If these phrases are so empty of real information, if they require what is basically a lie, why are they so necessary? Why does breaking the rule cause such immediate, severe social awkwardness? Let's do that deep dive into the human need for these meaningless exchanges.
Right. We have to connect this to fundamental human psychology. Our sources confirm the greeting is not just a habit. It's a low-effort confirmation that the immediate environment is safe and that the person you're encountering is friendly and predictable.
So we're talking about threat assessment, but on a subconscious level.
Precisely. Humans are biologically wired to constantly assess threats. It's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Every new social encounter, your brain runs a quick safety check. Is this person hostile? Are they stable? In ancient times, this check literally determined if you survived.
In modern times, it determines social survival, emotional stability. But in a fast, modern setting, we don't have time for a full security scan on everyone we meet.
No, we don't. So the question, how are you, serves as that quick, reliable check. If you respond with the expected, calm, positive script, fine, thanks, you instantly reduce the greeter's anxiety. You confirm your intent is non-hostile, that you are in control of yourself.
It's a very cheap form of social insurance.
It is. And if someone ignores the greeting or responds with anger or immediately launches into a crisis, the greeter's anxiety level spikes instantly. Because unpredictability equals potential danger, or at least potential difficulty.
This is a huge point for anyone learning the language. The phrase manages anxiety. It's the social equivalent of a computer doing a self-check when it starts up. It just confirms all systems are go for interaction.
Yes, that's a great way to think about it.
But doesn't the system reinforce a kind of systemic optimism? I mean, it puts pressure on people to hide genuine suffering just to keep the social machine running smoothly. Isn't there a real concern there that the need to be socially operational hides real mental health issues?
That is a very valid and crucial point. The system certainly prioritizes collective ease and efficiency over individual emotional authenticity. And our sources do note that this ritual of forced positivity can act as a barrier to honest self-reporting.
So why does it persist?
Well, the reason the ritual exists is because we have other specialized contexts for true emotional sharing. Therapy, close friendships, calls with family. The greeting is designed for generalized public life, where that kind of deep emotional engagement is, for the most part, unwanted and impractical.
So the phrase itself is like a fence. It separates the public space of efficiency from the private space of intimacy.
Exactly. It confirms. We are in the public, low-effort space right now.
Yeah.
It manages everyone's expectations. If you really want a real answer from someone, you have to use a different, higher commitment phrase. You have to signal that you are willing to spend the time and emotional energy.
Beyond just safety, then, the phrase is a critical boundary-setting tool. It's maybe the most polite way to acknowledge someone without committing to a full-on conversation.
Think about the alternative. If you just walk up to a coworker and immediately start talking about a spreadsheet without any greeting.
It feels incredibly cold, demanding, robotic.
Yes, it signals that you only see them as a resource for work, not as a human being.
I felt that, and it immediately creates resistance. The quick, empty exchange of "how are you" acts as a necessary buffer. It manages the flow of information beautifully.
It says, we are acknowledging each other's personhood first, with respect, before we dive into the tasks.
Hmm.
And it allows us to acknowledge someone without that commitment to a deep discussion. It protects the greeter's time and energy, but also it protects the responder's time and energy too.
How so?
If I say, I'm fine, thanks, I am also politely drawing a line. I'm saying, I've given you the social minimum required, and now we can either move to the real business or we can just part ways.
And this boundary setting is essential in any fast-paced environment. If we didn't have this quick ritual, the choices would be terrible. Either have deeply time-consuming conversations all day long or be completely silent and rude.
It provides the middle ground, the polite bridge. It gives us maximum social warmth for minimum conversational investment.
But let's follow that thought. What if we just got rid of it? What's the cost of silence?
The research on this is pretty clear. The absence of that phatic connection signals disinterest, emotional coldness, or even mild hostility. Imagine passing a neighbor you know. If you consciously choose not to say anything, not even a nod, that interaction feels really abrupt and hostile.
The neighbor immediately starts wondering, what did I do? Are they angry at me?
Exactly. The silent treatment, even if it's unintentional, creates instant social friction. The lack of a greeting is interpreted as a negative signal, a signal of rejection or conflict, even if none was intended.
We need that little moment of warmth.
We do. The social handshake provides that quick injection of warmth, confirming the relationship is intact. This is what makes any follow-up conversation possible, even if it's just about the weather. Without that handshake, the communication is unstable from the start.
So the phrase, how are you, might be meaningless in terms of facts, but it is profoundly meaningful in terms of emotional signals. It's the necessary social oil that keeps the machine running smoothly.
It's the foundation of temporary public trust. We are trusting that the other person is stable enough to operate in our shared social space without demanding too much from us. And the simple, positive response confirms that trust.
Okay, so given how crucial this ritual is for safety and efficiency, we have to look at how it's changing. We're in 2026. It's a very fast, very digital age. Our sources suggest that how are you is undergoing a kind of modern evolution. Is this classic greeting going to become obsolete?
I think the main trend we're seeing is contraction, shrinking. Efficiency is king in modern communication. We want the result, that confirmation of safety in the absolute minimum time. So the full phrase, how are you, is shrinking.
Especially in texts and online, but you hear it in person too. It's like we're applying the same editing rules we use for a tweet to our spoken greetings. Cut out any unnecessary syllables?
That's precisely the mechanism. The modern world demands speed. And the full, how are you, is frankly inefficient. It takes too long to say, and it often requires an equally long response like, I'm doing very well, thank you for asking. That's a huge 7-word exchange just to confirm the contract.
So society is finding shortcuts. Shortcuts that communicate the same phatic intent, but use less time and breath.
And the source material has some great examples of these newer, leaner, faster handshakes that have really taken over.
Give us some of the most common ones, the ones a beginner listener should be prepared to hear.
The most dominant ones are phrases like, you good, or what's up, or even just, how's things? Sometimes, in a really casual setting, it's just a simple questioning, hey, with that upward inflection.
You good is a masterclass in efficiency. 2 simple words, maximum impact. It's the same intent as how are you, but it's faster, less formal. And the expected answer is equally short, yeah, I'm good.
And this is the critical analysis. These are just highly efficient versions of the same social handshake. They communicate the same connection message, I see you and I'm friendly. But they're optimized for speed. The goal isn't better information. The goal is quicker confirmation.
So the function of phatic communication is still absolutely critical. But the form is constantly being redesigned for speed. We still need the social handshake. We just want to execute it in less than a second.
And this leads to an interesting point. These short forms can almost feel more honest. When you ask you good, it requires less theatrical commitment than the formal how are you.
Yeah.
You can just answer good without feeling the full weight of a deliberate lie because the question itself is so casual.
But this intense pursuit of speed sometimes leads to avoiding the phrase entirely.
Yes, the source mentions this trend, and it's important. People sometimes skip the greeting question altogether to avoid the small talk and get straight to the point.
I see this all the time in business emails. Or a quick Slack message that just starts with, regarding Project Z, I need the budget sheet by 3 p.m. No preamble, No, hope you're having a good day.
And the implication of skipping that greeting is profound. If I skip it entirely, I save a few seconds, yes. But I'm also signaling that our interaction is purely transactional. I'm implicitly telling you I only value the business outcome, not our relationship or your personhood.
That feels harsh. But it explains why sometimes when someone does that, we feel slightly offended. We recognize they've skipped that necessary social warming ritual.
That's the cultural trade-off we're making. In situations where relationships are highly valued, skipping it is seen as rude or aggressive. But in high-speed, transactional environments, it's becoming more and more normal. It's a cultural shift, speed over everything else.
Which brings us to the big question for our 2026 analysis. Is "how are you" a dead phrase? Do people still care, or is it just a robot habit we perform without thinking?
It's a complex situation. I would argue that the specific, full phrase, "how are you," is rapidly becoming a robot habit. But the underlying need for the social handshake remains profoundly, fundamentally human.
Okay, let's unpack that distinction. When you call the phrase "how are you" a robot habit, what does that mean for the person saying it?
It means the words are automated. The utterance is produced without conscious thought, like breathing. We perform the social function without ever engaging the literal meaning of the words. It's a pre-programmed ritual.
So if I ask my coworker, "how are you?" at 8 a.m., I'm not really asking about them. I'm just pressing the start conversation button to make sure they're ready to receive information about the workday.
Correct. But the automation doesn't mean the function is dead or useless. Even if the phrase is shrinking to "you good" or being skipped, the intent is still there. To acknowledge, to connect, to confirm safety.
That's fascinating. So the ritual itself will never truly die. It'll just change shape. If we all decided to stop saying "how are you," we just instantly invent another shorter phrase to replace its essential function.
We would have to. Because the human biological need for that low-risk confirmation of friendliness is non-negotiable. We have to quickly categorize who is in our social space and whether they're going to follow the rules. If we didn't have an automated phrase, we'd have to resort to awkward nodding or staring, which are far less efficient.
So the verdict is that the specific phrase "how are you" might be going extinct in favor of leaner substitutes. But phatic communication, the social handshake, is absolutely thriving. It's just evolving into versions that match our cultural need for extreme speed.
Think of it like social engineering applied to language. We are constantly redesigning our communication for maximum efficiency while maintaining the absolute minimum level of warmth required not to create friction.
It's a continuous optimization problem.
It is.
And understanding that optimization is key to understanding the hidden social codes of the English-speaking world. This has been a really profound journey into something we say, I don't know, hundreds of times a year without ever stopping to think about it. Today, we learned that "how are you" isn't a question for information. It is a vital signal for safety, a social handshake.
And we covered why being too honest is considered a social error, because it breaks that unwritten contract of efficiency and low commitment, forcing the other person to open an emotional budget they didn't consent to open. And we saw how crucial this exchange is for setting social boundaries and just reducing anxiety in our fast-moving world.
And finally, we analyzed the modern trend. The phrase is shrinking. It's becoming "you good" as we prioritize speed above all else. But here is a final provocative thought for you to think about. If we rely only on these fast, shrinking greetings and we always rush to skip at small talk, do we risk losing the comfortable foundation of trust? Do we sacrifice the opportunity for deeper connection when we maximize efficiency?
That's a profound question about the cost of speed. We ensure efficiency, but do we inadvertently make our social environment colder? Do we force people to hide their struggles even more because we've signaled that we only value the transaction, not the human being? That's a complicated trade-off we're all making in 2026.
We want to hear from you. Next time you say hello, just think about the code you're using. What is your favorite low-effort way to acknowledge someone and perform that social handshake without using the word "how"? Find that perfect quick connection phrase and let us know what it is.